So you like the Canon EOS R7, thought it was well balanced between stills and video capabilities, but you're that guy that wanted Canon to develop a cinema version. Well, they did. Details coming up, but first I encourage you to subscribe and choose all notifications so you're kept informed on the latest camera gear news and wacky rumors. And according to Canon rumors, the Canon EOS R7C is real. It's coming to market, and you can consider this story to be fact as it's rated CR3. And when a story is rated CR3 on Canon rumors, it means it's been validated from multiple trusted sources, and their accuracy has been very good over the years. Consider the Canon EOS R5. That camera was first leaked by Canon rumors on, I think it was January the 7th or 28th, and it had about 8 of the 12 specifications, and a few days later they updated a bit more, including 8K RAW, 4K 120, IBIS, and a whole bunch of capabilities. They were accurate about the 1DX Mark III, they were accurate about the R7, the R10, and many other cameras and lenses. And when it comes to lens rumors over the past couple of years, they're the only ones to hit it, although they did get a few minor things wrong, like the aperture range, but other than that, they've been dead on. So what do we know about this new camera, this R7C? Well, in terms of date, not this year. So if you've pre-ordered the R7 and you're thinking of holding off, we may not get this camera until 2023. There's no time frame at all, whether it's going to be early in the year, late in the year. And they even said that it's probably 2023. So could it be late this year or could it be pushed into 2024? We really don't know in terms of date. But in terms of the video capabilities, I'll get to that shortly, but it's going to be very similar to what Canon did with the R5 in the R5C. It's going to have the same video codecs. So Cinema Raw Lite, and you're going to get those 3 different versions. You get HQ, which is a high quality mode. You get ST, that's right, ST, not SQ, and that's a standard quality. Then you get LT, and no, obviously that one's going to be a lower quality than the standard quality or the HQ, but still both are very good. And of course, it will allow you to record unlimited. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. The R7 can record unlimited. Isn't that incredible? Canon just released a couple of cameras, the R10 and the R7, and one of them is under $1,000 at $979, and there's no 30-minute record limit. I just can't, I'm still staggered by that. But what the R7C, I almost said R5C, what the R7C is able to do is it's able to do 7K up to 24, 25, 30 frames per second, as well as 50 and 60 frames per second. So 7K oversampled 4K. So the detail is really good. That's not far off of what the Canon EOS R5 can do, 8K oversampled 4K. So I'd be really curious to see what that detail is going to be like. And of course, you've got the R7. You're going to have a pretty good idea of what that's going to be. You're going to get Canon Log 3. What I'm curious about, are they going to do the exact same thing they did with the R7C that they did with the R5C? So will it mean that it's going to have a switch and you go between basically the stills hybrid operating system and the EOS Cinema operating system? And that's certainly possible. It certainly makes sense. This is supposed to be a Cinema EOS camera, so that's what I'd be betting on until we get any other rumors saying otherwise. So Canon Log 3, Canon Log 1, Cinema Raw Lite. We get all those capabilities in terms of video codecs, but what about the other capabilities? And that's what we'll just have to wait and see. Will it have the same waveforms and vector scopes, which we got with the R5, which is really, really awesome. Love those video capabilities. But I think this is going to be a much more rugged camera in terms of recording endlessly for 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and so on. I think the camera is going to be able to do that quite easily. But I'm really curious by this because Canon's crop factor of 1.6 is very close to a Super 35. Really curious to see what this camera is going to do. And this is something I completely did not expect from Canon. I thought, great, we got the R5C. Didn't expect to see something like an R7C, and I'm really curious to know what this camera is going to do. What other things did they mention? No, I've covered everything off. Yep, nothing further on the camera. So let's think a little bit more about what the R7C could do, and I'd love to get your thoughts in the comment section down below. Now, we can assume that the price is going to be higher. The Canon EOS R5 is what, $3,800, $3,899, and the R5C is what, $4,499, $4,399. So you're looking at about $700 more. So what would the R7 be priced at? Well, it's around $1,399 now. Would they tack on an extra $600 for it? Or maybe $1,399, let's say they tack on $400, $1,799. Would you be interested in a cinema version of the R7? Now, what Canon did with the R5C is you didn't get dual pixel autofocus 2, so some of those things such as vehicle tracking and some of those enhancements that we got with the R5 we didn't get with the R5C. So I'm really curious to know about some of the enhancements there. And of course, the R5C didn't get IBIS like the R5 did, but I still think it's a very, very solid camera. And I really wonder how big of a market there is for this camera, the R7C. But what I like about this, what I like about the complete surprise of this camera, is it shows that Canon's thinking outside of the box here. They're taking those cinema capabilities down the price ladder a little bit more. They're making it more affordable. Myself, when I looked at the R5C, I thought it's a pretty good camera, but when you take these prices, $44.99, you convert it to Canadian dollars, Australian dollars, euros, pounds, and if you're living in the United States, what you don't realize is not only do you apply the exchange rate, but there's usually taxes and tariffs and other things that make these cameras considerably more outside of the United States. And so you might think, well, it's only $13.99 for the R7 and maybe what the heck, only $17.99. But in other countries, and I live in Canada, and so for example, the R7, after taxes here in Ontario will cost me $2,300 Canadian. And you're thinking, yeah, those Canadian dollars are not worth as much, but to me, $2,300 is a lot. So if the R7C costs close to $3,000 after taxes, for me, yeah, no, it doesn't really make sense to me. I would rather just say, you know what, I'll go with the R5, I'll work with what it's got. But as I see Canon come out with more cinema options, that might have me move away from a stills hybrid camera over to a cinema camera full time. I'm watching what Canon is doing here because I'm really intrigued by this. I love the stills hybrid camera. I love that I can easily switch out lenses, and I've got dozens upon dozens, well, literally 107 EF lenses, and the number of RF lenses keeps going up, and now we have the RFS mount. So there's a lot of lenses I can choose from. There's a lot of adapters, a lot of options. If I go cinema, it's a completely different world, and up until recently, cinema has been very, very expensive. And what we're seeing with the R7C is that, well, it's going to be a whole lot cheaper than the R5C. It's bringing those cinema capabilities down in price. And do you remember when we had a rumor from Canon Rumors going back to about 2020 when we had rumors of a C50, a C90, and a C70? We got the C70, but we didn't get the C50. And then there was rumors about a C5. And I'm wondering if these cameras, instead of naming them a C50 or a C5, what Canon is doing is just taking one of their popular stills hybrid cameras and just creating a cinema version. The level of effort going into that, well, it's not very hard. Basically, they can keep this exact same internals, but come out with a different casing. I think it's brilliant. I'm wondering what else they might create a cinema version of a camera for. I'm really curious, but let me know what you think about this in the comment section down below. I'm sorry I got this out to you so late, but you see, tomorrow's Canada Day. It's a national holiday, and while I was I was getting everything ready for tomorrow. I even took the camera off the rig downstairs. I hooked it up to the gimbal. I got all my batteries charged, got everything ready, switched out the lenses. Today was the last day of school of my son, so I shot that as well. I got everything ready for tomorrow, so I didn't forget anything. Checklist, batteries in there. CF Express card is in there. And here's what I'm doing with the R5 now. I'm done with the SD card slot. I'm sick and tired of it. I went out today. In the camera, I have it to specify to record video just to the CF Express card slot. And you know what happened? It started recording to the SD card slot, and it takes forever to get the content off, especially when you record it in 8K over sample 4K. And I said, you know what? I'm done. I don't care about the redundancy. I've yanked out the SD card. I'm not doing it anymore. I'm just going to record to CF Express cards. It just saves me a lot of time. That's one of the annoying bugs with the Canon EOS R5. You can set it so it records to the CF Express card for video alone. But yeah, if you pull out that card, bring in your computer, copy stuff off, put it back in the camera later, even if the camera's off, the very next time you press that record button, it's defaulting to the SD card slot. Really, really annoying stuff. So I hope they get that fixed. And I also hope for a firmware update coming in the future that's going to allow us with the Canon EOS R5, the R6, to be able to record without that 30-minute record limit. I mean, come on. The $979 Canon EOS R10 Canon can record unlimited. Why can't the R5 and the R6? You've been terrific at giving us wonderful firmware updates. Canon Log 3, an improved autofocus system, many other tweaks to the camera that have really enhanced it and made a really, really solid camera even more solid. But please, you know we absolutely hate that 30-minute record limit. And if you're a Canon EOS R5 or R6 owner, what I recommend is go to Canon, go to the feedback page on your respective domain, country, or region, and say, hey, come on, firmware update, removing that limit. Come on, show us the love. I mean, after all, we paid what, 4-5 times the amount of the Canon EOS R10? 4 times the amount. So we should be able to get that, shouldn't we? So anyhows, I wasn't expecting a lot of news today, and this is normally what happens late in a Thursday. I start packing things up, get ready for the weekend. I start doing reviews. I really didn't expect to see the Canon R7C, and I was getting ready to sit down, watch Star Trek, the new Star Trek that came out with Anson Mount. Really like that one. It's much closer to the older Star Trek. And of course, the Orville by Seth MacFarlane. I thought that 2.4 really will get me set for the weekend, get me ready for Canada Day. And then sure enough, I saw this R7C and I thought, oh, well, that changes thing. And I think there's something else too. I'm not going to do a separate video for this. Let me just see if there's something else that just came out. Canon will release an RF mount vlogging camera in 2022. That's also a CR3. So what do we have here on this camera? So remember we talked about the Canon EOS R100? Well, it's supposed to be a vlogging camera. So this is a CR3 now. It's supposed to be 2022. So we're supposed to be getting an RP. We're getting a refresh of the RP, a camera that sits between the RP and the Canon EOS R6. We don't know what it's going to be called, most likely the R8, and it's going to be mid-price to mid-spec between the RP successor and the EOS R6. So that's coming as well. An R5 high megapixel version dubbed the RS. It could be this year, could be next year. And of course the R100, and that's supposed to be a vlogging camera. So very interested to see that one there. And it's possible that we might get the Canon RF 24mm f1.8 and the Canon RF 15 to 35mm f3.5 to 5.6 image stabilized STM alongside the Canon EOS R100. And what I really think is going to happen here, this is the perfect camera to be announced right around September the 14th. The second week back in September, that's where I think is really prime for this. This is where we generally see cameras being refreshed like the R90, the Canon EOS 90D, the 80D, the 70D, the Rebel series cameras. Usually right around that time in September is a perfect time for it. And then as we go further into September and October, that's when we start to see the more high-end cameras being announced. So shaping up to be a very, very interesting fall. But we could see announcements this summer. Everything we've seen since the beginning of 2020 is that whole traditional announcement cycle has changed. But I think with most people back to work, with the world returning to normal, I'd expect to see us start to go back to that normal cycle. We'll see announcements right from January, the second week of January, leading all the way up till the end of June. Slow down in summer, and then kick right off again back in the second week of September, going right up till the end of October. And then we start to see new cameras being shipped in November and December. So really exciting stuff. And of course, if you want to stay up to date on the latest camera news and rumors like the R100, new lenses coming out, or this new R7C, because I'd really love to see some full leak specs on this camera and some images, make sure you subscribe and choose all notifications. And it's key to choose all notifications because as soon as I publish a video, YouTube's going to send you a notification so you can stay up to date on the latest camera news and rumors. If you're in Canada, have yourself a happy Canada Day. And if you're in the United States, well, have a happy Independence Day in just a few more days. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again soon.